Hello, everybody. This is Mike and Kipp with the Two Guys Talking Ship podcast.
Hey, yeah, this is Anchor Alert, episode 70. So this is our short format that we do. This is only our second one, just where we have to provide some new and breaking news. I can't wait for a full episode. Hey, so if you're new to the channel, give us a like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be alerted to new podcasts as they come available. Share with anybody you think might have an interest in Key Bridge news or Port of Baltimore details. Man, do we have a big one?
Yeah, we do. We do have an alert today. We just about an hour or so ago, or maybe it's about an hour and a half. There was a press release and announcement from the Key Bridge rebuild project, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it up now so that we can actually go through what that announcement was.
Cool, let's do it.
All right, so here's the announcement from Maryland Department of Transportation. So the Maryland Transportation Authority made an announcement that they've decided to off-ramp the progressive design build contractor for the Key Bridge rebuild project. And this is in consultation with the project partners with U.S. Department of Transportation, and they informed Kiewit Infrastructure Company that they will not be retained for Phase 2 construction of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And so there has been some negotiations and work, and if you've listened into the news here recently with some of the involvement of the concern about the price increase, but at Governor Moore's direction, MDTA will aggressively protect and advance those interests of Maryland and all of the taxpayers. And this was the focus on why Phase 2 was sent to the off-ramp, was because of the cost negotiations that were trying to take place after that 70% bridge design completion.
Right.
Now, this is a standard provision in progressive design build contracts.
Right.
And, until that final price is agreed upon.
Right. Because I think Jim and we talked about this with Jim, and he was saying, we're going to get to 100%, and then we're going to sit down and go over the numbers again and see if we can have an agreement.
Correct.
I'm paraphrasing, but
correct.
But I'd just like to clarify that the off-ramping is because of a third number that we haven't heard yet.
Correct.
Right? We had the first initial number was, let's say, $2 billion. We're rounding. The second number was $5 billion. Okay, neither one of those are why the off-ramp just happened 2 hours ago. There's a third number that we don't know of yet. Because I have people like blowing up my phone and messaging me on Facebook, and even they have it wrong.
Right.
Folks that I thought understood how this worked, and so it's good that you and I are talking about it to kind of help clarify. So let's go back. What was the $2 billion number? Give me the parameters. You and I talked about it before we hit record.
Right. So let's take a look at this and some of the very specifics around this. From that budgetary perspective, the first estimate was approximately $1.9 billion. Now, that estimate came 2 weeks after the collapse of the bridge.
Right. And there was a very specific reason why they came up with that number 2 weeks later. And hardly anybody ever talks about it. What was it?
This was submitted to qualify for the Federal Emergency Relief Program at that particular time. So the federal government needed some kind of a guesstimate number in order for all of the immediate things to start happening, and the initial, I believe it was about $60 million released to go and take care of the initial issue around the bridge. But they needed this estimate in order to move forward. So this number that was created was a scientific guess with no design and no engineering put into that number. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So we all celebrated that number going, oh, look, great. It's all going to be 1.9 billion and it's going to be done in 3 years. Let's hop to it. Okay. And we should not have done that. Now, there was a second
and maybe,
number.
you know, as you and I, as pseudo media members, maybe we didn't do such a good job clarifying.
Sure. That's fair. The second number that's come in has been around 4.8 to 5.2 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And that is based on 70% of the construction, design, and engineering
Right.
in that process.
Right.
So even that number is not correct. Okay.
Right.
And when we had,
I would like to use the word mature. I mean, nobody came out and said, "Hey, this number's wrong."
correct, yes,
Right? It was the best that they had at the time. It was the next reasonable estimate in the path towards coming up with a final number.
correct.
Okay.
So further design and budget estimates have triggered this off ramp.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an option that does exist within progressive design build models. Now let's think about this. There's a reason, again, I'm going to reiterate, the reason why a progressive design build model was used was because of the nature of the project. We weren't planning on replacing the Key Bridge anytime soon. It was a disaster that happened. There's now a major artery that has been eliminated within our market. And so
Right.
they now have to go and figure out how to go build. It's the build the plane as you're flying it type situation, but the contractual agreement allows for that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so if they come across certain design changes or challenges or what have you, that there is a cost associated.
Right. I just wanted to clarify that, you know, that first number, 2 billion, or the second number, 5 billion, are not the reason for the off-ramping today. Like, I was talking to someone and they said, well, you know, there was a huge cost increase. It more than doubled. And I'm like, wait a minute, did you hear of a new number from today? Or are you talking about the 2 to 5, right? Because from 2 to 5, that's more than double, but that's not why the off-ramp happened today. So I want to read this little part that we kind of skipped over. Since the rebuild began, Governor Moore has made it abundantly clear that the Key Bridge must be built as safely, quickly, and as cost efficiently as possible. It became clear through negotiations that Kiewit's proposal for Phase 2 construction is unacceptable, exceeding the state's independent cost estimates. To get the best value for the taxpayers, all the inflatable gas station guys that are out there complaining about how expensive it is, okay, so somebody's looking out for you. Governor Moore has directed the MDTA to seek other contractors for Phase 2 construction. Now, I got to admit, we had talked about this. We had talked about this with Jim. I knew it was a possibility. I was hoping it wouldn't happen, and to be honest with you, I was shocked when I heard this. Was it a possibility? Are off-ramps built in? Does it happen? Yes, but I was kind of hoping, and I'm kind of shocked that it happened. I'm disappointed, if I may. That's just me.
Sure. No, I mean, in some of the involvements that I have in other projects and things, I mean, there have been, we understand that sometimes those projects just don't come to fruition the way they originally designed, and so sometimes you have to change midway, and that's okay in order to get the right solution. And you know what? Once this thing is built, I'm going to have to drive back over the thing again. I'm going to want to make sure that as I'm driving over it, that I'm going to make it across, so I'm fine with those, let's make sure we get the right design on it.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I know that people are emotionally charged about this. I am myself. I drove over the bridge every day for 7 years. I'm impacted. I've got my car has gone into service now twice since the thing to try to get major repairs done because of all the potholes. I get it. If anybody does, I get it. And I want
you're
the thing
still making that crosstown commute every day.
absolutely.
And it's how much longer for you personally?
It's doubled my commute. It's now 50 to minutes to an hour a day. So I get it. I want the thing built just as fast as everybody else and as cheap as everybody else.
Right, but let's not be unreasonable about it.
Correct.
And let's be educated and understand the process. Doesn't make it any less frustrating, but let's know the whys behind it. So one more little paragraph here down further in the announcement. Work will not stop on the Key Bridge rebuild project, said MDTA Executive Director Bruce Gardner. Progress will continue and Kiewit will fulfill their contract obligation for Phase 1, which includes driving foundation pile and building a temporary trestle. So before people freak out and think that's what's going on out there is going to stop, no.
Correct.
Okay.
There have been several formal statements that have been made since that announcement that says Phase 1, the project for Phase 1 is not stopping. It will continue. It is continuing. And if you go look on the cam right this minute, you can see the work that's being done out there.
Wait a minute, there's a camera?
There's 2 cameras.
What?
At least. And Key Bridge Rebuild has been publicizing all of those changes. So please spend some time and go look at all of the work that they have been doing. Yes, that trestle is currently being built. The production piles for the towers are going in. Everything in Phase 1 is moving forward as it was originally designed and contracted out to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I joke, but on the camera today, you could see them trying to lift up this giant 5-gang template, which is, I don't know, the darn template is 3 or 4 stories tall itself. You're picking up this giant steel structure and trying to move it. Yeah, just the work they do out there is amazing.
So the process from this point is going to be rebid. They're going to go and solicit for bids for Phase 2, and those construction companies who are interested in participating can submit a bid. I would imagine that this is going to, and I haven't heard any timelines or anything yet, but I'm sure that we'll start seeing some of that. But I would imagine this process is going to happen pretty quickly. Now, yes, there may be a delay. But
I would imagine.
But they are identifying this at this point during Phase 1.
Right.
And I think that the intent is that Phase 1 continues as as scheduled.
Right.
And that there is minimal to no delay for Phase 2 starting with this whole particular process. Again, I don't know what the time frames are.
Right.
But if they're doing this now instead of at the end of Phase 1, that tells me that they are continuing to progress through the full project.
Right. Hey, let's just cover one other thing that, like, I have in my memory, so if I'm wrong, just tell me, right? That we understood that, through the current contract, through the progressive design build, that the state or the MDTA owns this design, right? So they're going to be able to have this design. They're not going to have to get somebody new to come in and redesign the right.
Correct.
They own the design, so they can hand the drawing over to the new guy and new company and say, okay, how much to build this and how long will it take?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, in that transaction, it is quite possible that those bids that come in, they could be higher. They could be lower. I hope they're lower. I have high confidence that it probably will be.
Right. I would say, so right here where it says Kiewit's proposal for Phase 2 construction is unacceptable, far exceeding the state's independent cost estimate. So I suppose that they got, I don't know, I'm going to clarify, right? They got the 100, the state did an estimate, then they compared it with Kiewit's estimate. I wonder what the threshold is.
Right.
5% over the 10, 20? What is wholly unacceptable? You know, to where they're willing to off-ramp the current contractor, and I'm going to use it in Mike terms, and bet on the fact that we're going to be able to get a much more reasonable bid out of somebody else. I mean, to me, that's what it comes down to. They wouldn't be off-ramping Kiewit if they didn't think they could get much better number.
I also wonder if there would be any extra work that needs to be done to the design process. If there's a different contractor that comes in and maybe looking at how to actually implement that particular design phase, and would there need to be minor changes to that particular design?
That's an interesting point. Or is it, and I'll use our example. We had our deck rebuilt, right? And we had an engineer come in, here's how I want to do it, okay, looks good. And then when we hired the contractor to rebuild it, there was a decking subcontractor. And he came in and he didn't like the way this one joint was. And said, no, we're not doing that. So just one small part, didn't change any of the dimensions, really. Overall, the height, width, length didn't change any of that, but just, how the supports were put together.
Mm-hmm.
Or does the state say, this is it? This is the design, you bid on it as it exists.
All right, so that's, those are, some very interesting things. Those are some of the questions that I do have as they progress through this process.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure we're going to get the real numbers. We're going to find out what the number came in, how much larger it was. I'm sure that will eventually come out, wouldn't you think?
I would imagine that there'd be some messaging around that to try to explain how much of a significant increase it was.
Right.
We'll just have to kind of wait to see what happens there.
All right, so we just wanted to get together real quick and cover this news and maybe help to dispel some rumors and educate some folks on what's really happening here, right? So there's a new number that we don't know about that was unacceptable. And the state's trying to save you money. That's the bottom line, right? So, all right.
Nope. There we go with our quick anchor alert.
Yep.
If we have some more information coming out on the bridge, we'll collect it and push that out, and then see what else we can learn about this process.
Sounds good.
All right, let's go ahead and count it off. 3,
do it.
2, 1. Happy ship watching.
Happy ship watching. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.